Erick Castro here, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit different. Instead of interviewing somebody or making cocktails for you folks to try at home, instead I'm going to be answering questions from some of you out there. Now, the inspiration for this episode came to me when someone reached out to us via the Bartender Large Instagram, and in this DM they asked, "Hey there, I'm a cocktail lover who has been experiencing some major life changes and considering trying to get a job as a bartender. The primary issue is that I'm 32 years old and have no bar experience. Will anyone hire me without actual bartender experience? And if not, how would I go about faking my way into the role?" Now, this is a really interesting question. And normally I wouldn't want to encourage this sort of thing. And honestly, I'm actually gonna even go on the record as saying I don't encourage this sort of thing. However, I have helped friends get jobs behind a bar with zero experience. However, before I get started and before I show you how to lie your way into a bar job, I do want to say that this is all at your own risk. This is all theoretical advice. So don't actually take what I'm saying as gospel, because if you're exposed, it could raise a lot of professional questions, and who knows, you might even get fired. But the only reason I'm even entertaining this idea is because the industry is experiencing a major staff shortage. So I know a lot of places need more bartenders. So keep that in mind as I unfold some theoretical ways to get hired without experience. The first thing that I would tell you to do is find a bar that closed down, preferably bar outside of town, maybe a place that you went to college, maybe your hometown, meaning they don't have an active website anymore, there's no one answering the phone, the place might have closed down years ago. Now you can use that as your reference as a place that you used to work. The beauty, for obvious reasons, is that no one can call and verify it to see if you actually worked there. And here's a dirty secret in the industry: a lot of places don't call references anyway. If you do have to put a phone number down, maybe just put down the phone number or an email of a friend of yours that maybe lived in the same town. That's if they even call. However, make sure that your friend's information and what you have in mind are on the same page. I mean, dates that you were hired, dates you were employed, why did you leave on good terms, yada, yada, yada. All of that information, make sure that theirs is in line with yours. Because you don't want to look stupid and get exposed for something really simple, like your boss not knowing why you left. Also, I would imagine that you're leaving on good terms, because if you're lying about your resume, why would you put that you got fired for something? I don't know. Next, you want to be clear about your intentions of where you're applying and why. If you're applying at a high-end craft cocktail bar, you're probably going to need more experience than just, serving drinks at a bowling alley. However, if you're applying at a nightclub, that actually might be enough to get you hired. Another place that might be a little bit tricky is if you're applying at a high-end restaurant or fine dining, because those places probably will check your resume. If you're looking to work at a high-end craft cocktail bar, they're going to want somebody that knows the classics and is comfortable behind the bar, which can be a little bit trickier for you to pull off. Or if you're applying at a high-end restaurant, they're also going to expect a higher level of knowledge. You might even be asked to fill out a written test or quiz before you apply at those spots, just so they kind of know what baseline they're starting with. So also, that skill set's going to be a little more difficult. However, if you're applying at a local sports bar or family restaurant, it'll be a whole lot easier to fake your way through that, because the skill set asked for is a lot more approachable and has to do more with personality than necessarily knowledge base. Which brings me to my next tip, and that's get comfortable with the material. And by that I mean, if you want to work at a high-end craft cocktail bar, you're going to have to know the classics. You're going to have to learn the specs for a Manhattan, for a Tom Collins, a Mai Tai, all those classic cocktails, because you're going to get quiz on those, and if you don't know those, you're going to expose yourself as not knowing your shit. If you're looking to work at a local sports bar or a nightclub, you're going to want to learn things like kamikazes, Long Island iced teas, sex on the beaches, drinks like that. However, in the modern age, you're still going to be expected to know how to make some of those classics like old fashions and Negronis. So you're not completely off the hook. Now, this next tip I'll give you is a must, regardless of what kind of place you apply, be it a bowling alley, a nightclub, or a cocktail bar. And that's that you have to be comfortable behind a bar and with tools. because there's no better way to expose yourself back there by not knowing how to use a shaker tin. Now, for those of you out there that are accomplished home bartenders, this is a definite leg up, as you'll be comfortable using a bar spoon, jiggers, fresh juices, and handling tins. Because if you show up for your first shift behind the bar and you don't know how to crack open a tin, or you don't know how to hold a bottle when you're pouring liquor, you're gonna look like a bonehead, and everybody back there is gonna know that you're full of shit. Ew. Luckily, the way around this is you can just practice in your home. Years ago, I helped a friend of mine with no experience get a job behind a bar, because I remember specifically hanging out in her kitchen for hours with empty bottles that were filled with water, and she just poured from them and did it until it was second nature. Next, I taught her how to shake, how to handle a bar spoon, how to use jiggers, all of that. And she practiced, she took it seriously to the point that when she actually got hired, she was able to kind of flub her way through everything. But just a fair warning that this is gonna take a lot of practice and a lot of time you acclimate yourself to these bar tools. In fact, if you even wanna get more granular, there's a whole bunch of online courses that you could take that'll help you get acclimated to at least learn a little bit of cocktail history that you might be able to apply to your interview. Speaking of that interview, you're gonna want some bar anecdotes that you can use to fake your way through the interview. If you choke during the interview, they're not even gonna bring you back and you're never gonna get that job. So maybe read some interviews with some bartenders or listen to the Bartender Large podcast. Just listen to some stories and anecdotes from accomplished bartenders out there and just lie and say that these things happen to you. The only reason I'm using that as an example is because I actually got approached once at Tales of the Cocktail by a guy who told me that that's what he did. He flat out came up to me, he's like, hey man, I don't know if this is gonna make you mad or not, but I listened to a bunch of your episodes and I just took a whole bunch of different experiences from bartenders and I used all those stories to lie my way through an interview and got hired as a bartender. I didn't get mad at him. I kind of laughed at first because I just thought it was like very inventive and clever of him. But you know what? If it worked for him, it might work for you too. And if you choose not to go that route, however, you happen to have some buddies that are bartenders, ask them if they have any tidbits of knowledge or information that you could drop into your interview that would help you ace it. This next one is more a tip about getting comfortable and getting paid as a bartender before you actually score that dream bartending job, and that's working banquet events. A lot of times you can score a gig as a bartender at a banquet event with very minimal knowledge. That's because they're not taking as big a risk on you, they're hiring you for one night. And since it's only one night, they're not quite as picky as most brick and mortar locations. Working catering gigs is super easy, the money's generally pretty good, and you can actually get a little bit of experience back there making drinks for folks. And during that time, it will even give you an opportunity to even decide if that's what you want to do. Because I've had a lot of friends who dreamed about being a bartender, and then once they actually got that role, were struck at how difficult it is. It's very taxing your body, it's taxing your feet, a lot of places don't pay very well, and you work long hours. So before you take any of this advice to heart, it's important that you ask yourself, is this job even for you? Do you like working late? Do you like customer service? Do you like having to smile when sometimes you'd rather strangle someone? Also, does your partner work mornings? If say, your significant other wakes up to go to work at 6 a.m. and you're coming home at 5, is that gonna pose any problems? Some people make it work. For some people, it's actually better that way because somebody gets to hang out with the kids. However, for some people, it can be very taxing on their relationship. So these are just certain things to keep in mind. This can be especially taxing for folks that live in cities where bars are open till 4, 6, and maybe even 24 hours. So before you even attempt any of this stuff, it might even be a good idea to pick up some bar backing shifts. Because for that, the threshold's a little bit lower for getting hired, and it'll actually give you an opportunity to see if this lifestyle is even for you. I do want to let all of you out there know that I'm not endorsing anybody to lie on a professional level. I'm just saying these are some things that I would tentatively recommend if that's the course that you chose to take. However, all of you out there, do you know of anyone who's ever lied their way into a bar job? Are there any tips that you would recommend for somebody who wanted to lie their way into a bar job? If so, leave in the comments down below, and who knows, maybe we'll showcase them on a future episode. And with that said, thank y'all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you again next week.